Chapter 3, Can't Repeat. After a short silence, the audience chamber was in utter chaos. Why, within the presence of the king, is he carrying a sword? In the king's presence. What are the imperial guards doing? Quickly, arrest him. The civil servants edge back, the knights on standby move forward. Inside the castle there is basic equipment. Like the knights in the summoning room, all these knights have the same short spear. Please wait. Imararia cried, standing in front of Hifumi with her diminutive body. Hiro-sama too, please hear my story. Go ahead, thank you very much. On her words not being disregarded, Imararia was relieved a little. However, thinking about the problem, she braced herself. Wait, Imararia. Imararia looked up on hearing the king's voice. Though he was sitting on the throne in a relaxed manner, his countenance showed irritation. First of all, speak with us. Hero, we are Wilbur Ken Godenheim Orsangrande, the king of this country. TN, I took some liberties with names, but tried to stay as close as possible to the original. Also, the king is using a form of me that is typically used by royalty. Hence, the us, Hifumi did not look away from Imararia. Hiro-sama. I said I would listen to what you had to say. Say it quickly. On seeing Hifumi's complete disregard for him, the king angrily struck the armrest of the throne. Ignoring us. Even a hero is not permitted to ignore us. Guards, arrest this fellow. It's fine if he's injured a little. For members of the guard charged forward at the royal decree, all of them were cut down in a single breath. Without being flashy, a precise swing of the sword killed efficiently. Watching the elegance and cruelty, everyone in the audience hall held their breath. Hiro-sama. What? Your name, please let us hear it. Hifumi. Thinking a little, Hifumi answered with only his given name. His family name of Touno he might as well throw away. Killing the god, crossing over worlds, killing people. Though there were no lingering attachments to his family, Hifumi had come alone, he may have wanted to persuade himself of that. Hearing his name, Imararia looked Hifumi in the eye and said, Hifumi-sama, due to our selfish convenience, you were called to this world. I sincerely apologize to you. Truly, I am very sorry. The surrounding people murmured on seeing Imararia bowing deeply. A member of the royal family is bowing to a rude person. In this world, where status is fixed and hierarchical relationships are the norm, this is clearly the exception. This situation, it is my fault. To calm Hifumi-sama's anger, I will do anything I can. My life, you may end it right here if you wish. Imararia's blue-eyed gaze don't waver from Hifumi. Demonstrating resolution, she awaited his words quietly. However, the king raised his voice. Foolish. How could such a thing happen? Isn't this person a hero? Imararia, explain. The king's voice shook with anger. Why should the princess lower her head? What did the knights taking part in the ritual do? Just what is going on? Explanation from Imararia's mouth. The reality of the situation shocked people in the hall. Some knights have already been murdered by the man called to save the country. And most surprising, blaming the king with a crime, no, to say such a thing warrants punishment. Towards the king, a monarch, such a thing is unacceptable. At least, according to the people in this world. Hifumi, there is still time. Kneel to us and swear to serve this country. With your ability, you can obtain a high position. The rudeness here, and the crime, we will overlook it. Though people were killed, it was a terrible remark, but from the reactions of the civil officials, the king's influence seems to hold much weight. With these impossibly favorable terms, the king looked down on Hifumi from the platform full of confidence. However, to the abnormal man standing there, it was a bad move. Foolish. Hifumi spat and continued. Astonishing. A man of power who is also a complete fool. Do you not understand that your daughter is desperately trying to protect you? Do you not understand your position? You should be begging me. I and your daughter, who you want to use for this country. You tried to deprive a man of his future, for your own selfish interests. Hi Hifumi Sama. Imeraria's fears were realized, the situation was going terribly bad. However, it was too late. Several knights charged towards Hifumi, but were killed instantly. Hifumi had already reached the pinnacle of fighting one-handed. The civil servants unable to take in the violence back up against the walls, and some sit down in fear. Only the prince and the queen seem able to watch the situation without turning pale. Then how to say this? You cannot be returned to your former world, the way of repatriation is lost, only the ritual of summoning remains. On hearing the king's words, Hifumi looked at Imeraria. She confirmed it by avoiding his gaze and looking down. Everything is our fault. Therefore, Imeraria, if a parent obediently apologizes, consent to money. Of course, your wish of leaving will be heard. Becoming the likes of a subordinate is unreasonable. Money, huh? The princess herself does not have any assets. Because it is rare to buy anything with one's purse. Of course, the country pays for this. Why? The criminal is a king. The king's responsibility is the country's responsibility. That is how it is. Hifumi did not really want a lot of money. He wanted enough for immediate funds in this world. However, he was unable to accept the king's attitude and wanted to see the reaction of the king and specified an amount of money. 30% of this country's treasury. I will receive a formal apology, of course. This nation's king who messed up, you will publicize this event so that it is common knowledge. That is. Understanding wells in Imeraria. Her father cannot accept these conditions. Thought the amount of money mentioned is not a problem, but publicizing the king's blunder, with her father's character, will not be allowed because of the royal family's dignity. Something like this is reason enough for abdication. Heh. Are you stupid? I cannot accept such a reason. Take a better look at reality if you want to negotiate. The king scoffed on listening to Hifumi's conditions. At this latest stage, he did not give up his superiority. Then, I will give you enough money to live easily for several years. You are somewhat talented, but a mad dog is not needed. On receiving the money, leave the castle immediately. In order to show dignity to the vassals who are somewhat settling down, the king talked as though he had the upper hand. The king's authority is higher than anyone else, they reassured themselves of that while exchanging glances. Until the end, he understands nothing. What a pathetic fellow. Hifumi muttered to himself, with a sigh mixed in. How many people were able to hear it? Though Imeraria heard him, before she understood, the next scene jumped into her eyes. Die. With silent footsteps, Hifumi draws near the king in an instant. With a sound like cutting grass, the king's head was cut off. Hi. The head tumbled down onto the queen's lap, who was sitting to the side. She fainted in fear. Similarly, the prince fainted too. How? Parents take responsibility for their child. In this case, the parents are the masterminds. Furthermore, the conditions were given, yet not met, his death was but natural. Cleaning his blade with a kaisher, said Hifumi, without a trace of malice in his expression. Regrettable. You always thought of your father first, but he was stupid. But I took responsibility. To Imeraria's incoherent muttering, Hifumi continued, you reflected. Did you follow what your father said after that? According to his own convenience, he tried to give reparations. So I killed him. The vassals were already lost for words. Feeling fear and confusion, no one moved. But one person, a younger knight, saw the princess burst into tears and ran towards Hifumi. Don't think you can get away with this. A man pulled out his sword and charged at Hifumi. Slow. Hifumi judged it unnecessary to pull out his katana, passed by the side of the knight with a quick movement, scooped his opponent's chin and threw him to the stone floor. During the audience, a carpet was spread only in the central passage. The young knight was unlucky. Fresh blood spread over the floor. Look. Told by Hifumi, Imararia raised her head timidly. A hellish sight filled her view. Several corpses of knights, her mother and brother, fainted on the platform. Anne. All this is the result of the action your father took. All because of believing in that fool. Hifumi looked at Imararia. The difference is, you reflected a little. It was a really self-centered point of view, but no one said anything. In a manner of speaking, a person who's been hurt takes revenge on the mastermind. According to the kingdom's laws, killing a kidnapper and escaping are natural rights, though Hifumi didn't know that. Though criminals are privately put to death, it is a king that has been killed. The situation is too abnormal. Imararia was sitting down trying to organize her thoughts. Though unable to precisely understand the person in front of her, she carefully watched the situation. Well now. Hifumi looked around. A man stepped forward. It is a well-built man, around 50 years old. Because he stood near the throne, he might be a high-level person in this place. You are? This country's Prime Minister, Adele Fiori Vigna. Hifumi stared expressionlessly at the man who was desperately trying to suppress his shaking knees. Don't be afraid. If you don't harm me, I will not harm you. Apart from that, take me to the treasury of this castle. Immediately. To Adele's doubtful expression, Hifumi declares lightly. Reparations have been met. Hifumi was led to the treasury by Adele. The soldiers on guard also entered, as asked by Adele. Entering the treasury, there were silver and gold coins were piled up. Half of them were stored in the dark hole. The promise was that of 30%, Adele looked at Hifumi in protest. The promise was already broken. Though a life was lost, but such a life is unworthy. Hifumi declared lightly. Looking at the airy treasury, Adele had given up on the national administration in the future, was walking unsteadily towards the exit with Hifumi following. Imararia, who was crying before in the throne room, appeared. Hifumi-sama, please wait. What? My business here is done. First of all, this apology. Hifumi looks at Imararia suspiciously. The other party is a man that killed her father a moment ago. Logically speaking, it is hardly a thing to be able to simply forgive. This time, I was foolish and unaware. Though it does not change what has already happened, without thinking about the repercussions, I did this. And now. Raising her head, Imararia's face was expressionless, like a cool-headed statesman. Our country Orson Grande does not forgive you. I will support mother and my younger brother and make this country strong. And in time, when we are unreliant on others, we will take revenge. Fufu, unable to bear it, Hifumi burst out laughing. If you like, how about competing now? No, the present military power of our country will not be able to stand against you. This even I understand. It is my responsibility to set it up. After that, I will have my revenge. Is that so? Well then, I will look forward to that time. Thank you. Now please leave as soon as possible. The exit is there. Hifumi started walking in the indicated direction. Imararia raised a hand, stopping the knight approaching Hifumi from the back. She knew it was useless. Have the 3rd Night Corps observe him until he leaves the country. Get me a detailed report. However, all attacks against him are prohibited. On leaving the country, the task goes to the Spy Corps. At once, Princess. Receiving Imararia's orders, the knight left. Father, please forgive the weak me who cannot beat the enemy. Soon, one day. While watching Hifumi's back disappearing into the town, tears thought to have withered streamed down her cheeks. In such a way, the god killer, the man that killed a king, was released into the world.